can we please talk about UFC Vegas 40? Can you believe there are 40 of these now? Because, you know, I mean, because they started renaming them like from the fight night. I have no idea what number fight night this is. I'm assuming it does have a fight night number. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, since I started doing the show, they started moving them to UFC Vegas. So we've had like 40 UFC Vegases. That doesn't sound right. 40 UFC Vegas. Oh, that sounds even worse. Multiple UFC Vegas events. And anyway, we're up to number 40. So my breakdown of some terrible bets. There's some value odds. There's going to be some decent fights on this one. It's a sneakily good card. So, yeah, we'll be breaking all of that down in 15 minutes or less in the Burt Locker Fights in 15 for UFC Vegas 40. So let's start off this one in the 170-pound division, the welterweight division. First off, I would like to just give a shout out though to Lupita Godinez, who's taking on Luana Carolina. Lupi, you might remember her from last week. She's doing it on a 7-day turnaround. She had a great first round submission last week, really good performance. And you know what? It's I would quite fancy her to win this one again. I feel like Luana Carolina would have been an underdog against her original opponent, which was Sasha Eubanks, is it? Yeah, Sarge. Yeah, she would have been an underdog there. Quite a different opponent. Lupita showed her grappling last week, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing happen again. So fair play to Lupita Godinez. That's a hell of a turnaround, and yeah, be rooting for you. So anyway, as I said, the 170-pound division, we see the return of Mr. Danny Roberts. Now, Danny Roberts, he's a very good English fighter. I did wonder what the hell happened to him. He has been gone for a hot minute. He has been, I don't know where he's been. I don't know if he's had like visa issues or I don't know, but. Either way, he's back. We haven't seen him since 2019. He knocked out Zalim Imadev in his last fight, which was a decent enough performance. And generally speaking, you have to be pretty good to beat Roberts. Like, his only losses are to very good fighters. You've got your Michelle Pajeras, your Claudia Silvas, your Nadine Talebs. Most other fighters do get knocked out by him. Now, Ramazan Emeev. You'd be forgiven for thinking that he's another one of these Dagestani wrestlers because no surprises here. He is from Dagestan. And he can wrestle as well. He is a pretty good wrestler. He does, but the thing is like, he was really good in M1. They loved him over there in M1 in Russia. And he used to fight in front of a home crowd. He used to be like, he was a middleweight champion for a hot minute. And he just got loads of submissions on his record. Like, he used to finish fights, but since he's gotten into the UFC, he just doesn't finish a goddamn thing. He just kind of plods and goes far enough ahead of his opponent. He usually like grapples a bit. That's where I think, look, he's going to try and turn this into a grappling contest, because if you're fighting an English fighter, generally speaking, that's what you're trying to do. Because the myth is that the English fighters have no wrestling. That's not strictly true. In modern mixed martial arts, it really just is not true. Look at Tom Aspinall's wrestling. Do you know what I mean? His grappling is extremely good. And MMA has been around for a long enough time now that most English fighters who are worth anything do know how to grapple, enough. But do you know how to grapple enough to take on one of these Dagestani wrestlers? That's the problem. They've got that sniff the jockstrap style, which I am not a huge fan of. I don't think we need another kind of like heavy wrestler based kind of style. Like, you got, Islam Makhachev, that's enough. You got your Khabibs. Khabib was, don't get me wrong, very impressed with what he did, but it's just like, somebody's got to find a way. It's not up to them. They're doing everything they need to do, but somebody needs to find a way to counter that style sooner or later, because bottom line is, this is entertainment. It's entertainment first. If it stops being entertaining, then people will stop paying money, and then everybody loses out. But I don't think there's any danger of that happening. I just feel like, we don't need another heavy wrestling style champion who's just going to beat everybody. like I said. But it's not, the onus is not on them. The onus is on guys like Danny Roberts to knock these dudes out and to keep it standing, to stop the wrestling, to negate the wrestling. That's going to be the big question here. Can Danny Roberts keep this on the feet? Because if he can, he knocks this dude out, I think. You know, Danny Roberts, he's like, because don't get me wrong, Ramazan, he's a pretty good stand-up guy. Like, he generally does kind of stand up, but he kind of, and that's the problem. He mixes it with his wrestling really well, which is where, I don't know, I can't see problems for Danny Roberts. I really want Danny Roberts to win, and also just because, look, end of the day, as I mentioned before, you know, you've got to be pretty good to beat Danny Roberts. Anybody that's not kind of getting up to those like really good like names, they're getting knocked out by Roberts. Roberts, he can really punch. You know, 8 of his 17 wins are by knockout, and it might be on a wing and a prayer, but I mean, you know, it's not like Emeev is immune to being knocked out. He has been knocked out only once, I think. But and I like the odds here. There's value there. You got +7 on the knockout for Roberts, which is 6-1, right? Very nice value. But honestly, the smart money would be on an Emeev decision because he is the decisionator. That's what he does. But I'm a dreamer. Like if you're betting smart, take the Emeev decision. If you're like me and you're a goddamn dreamer because you just want to have faith in something spectacular and you want to have faith in those hands of Danny Roberts, then come with me. Come with me and have a little bet on the knockout for Danny Roberts because that's what I'm doing. Lovely. Keep those stakes low though. Keep the stakes low. Keep the odds long. Keep the bets terrible. That's my motto. Jim Miller is walking out this weekend. Miller's one of my all-time favourites. Dan Hardy and Ollie, they alluded to this on their podcast. Really great podcast. Check that one out. Full Reptile on YouTube. It's incredible. So good. Like they're so knowledgeable. They're way more knowledgeable than me. I say how I feel. They have actual knowledge. So yeah, you should definitely go and check that out. Either way, Miller's one of my all-time favourites. One thing that they did slightly miss there was that they said, you know, this might be his last fight. And actually, they are probably right because this is fight number 50 for Jim Miller. 50th fight. I do not see him going past it. I hope that he can get the win, right? Because the thing is, right, it's not like he's getting blasted. It's not like he's getting wiped out every single time he goes in there. He's losing decisions. Yeah, that's fair. But he is getting submissions as well. He submitted Roosevelt Roberts and Clay Guida and Jason Gonzalez. Miller either wins by submission or he loses a decision these days. That's what happens. And I hate to say it, but my money is probably on the latter on this one. I would love to see Jim Miller go out on a win. And I'm not going to curse that happening by betting on him because like my picks are terrible. That's why I call them terrible bets, right? So as much as I would love to take Jim Miller by submission, the odds are shit on that as well because I think the bookies know if he's winning, it's going to be a submission. Eric Gonzalez, he's not fought in the UFC yet. He's younger. His record isn't terrible. This is the kind of guy that Jim Miller should be beating, really, with respect, right? However, it's like, you know, Jim Miller is not young anymore and he does tend to fall behind and lose decisions. So I will take the +5 on the decision. You're getting 4-1 on that for Gonzalez. And it's just because, you know, Miller loses a lot of decisions. Love Jim Miller. I want to see him win this fight. Nothing would make me happier than seeing Jim Miller pull out another submission. But I'm putting my money on the decision for Gonzalez just because I think there's value in that bet, if I'm totally honest. Now you've got Andrei Olofsky versus Carlos Felipe, 265. Now this one is interesting because Carlos Felipe is like the Nick Diaz of the heavyweight division. He's brilliant. He just like he calls people on. He hits them he doesn't put everything into every single punch. It's quite an interesting style, but he really is there to bang, and I enjoy the hell out of that, right? And Olofsky has got power. Do you know what I mean? Olofsky is a gatekeeper, right? He's not in a bad way. I'm saying that, like, Olofsky is the litmus paper. He's the test. He is, you have to be able to beat him to show your worth in that heavyweight division because Olofsky is worth a lot. I want to say that. Do you know, I'm not calling him a gatekeeper disrespectfully. What I'm saying is that is the role he's fallen into. And it's because he's such a good challenge. Do you know what I mean? He's an OG. He really is. Right? Now, they keep putting him in these winnable fights because this is a winnable fight for Olofsky. Make no mistake about it, right? Felipe is pretty good, like 11-1, but Olofsky is his biggest test to date. That is true, right? Now, Felipe has never been stopped, right? He's never been stopped. And also, Andrei Olofsky has not gotten a knockout since 2015 when he fought Travis Brown. That's a fairly long time now, right? Olofsky just isn't putting people away anymore. No, so the decision is almost a certainty. But it's almost like I kind of have that feeling of, you know, when it's like, don't blink, these two guys are going to knock, someone's going home in a casket. This is the opposite of that. It's like literally, it's like this is going to a decision. That is the general consensus, which says to me, maybe it won't, right? Because sometimes the opposite just happens. So that's why, and this is a terrible basis for betting, by the way. Just to let you know, do not follow this betting logic. It is awful. The smart money, if you really want to have a bet that comes off, bet on this, go in the distance. Because you get shit odds, but that's almost certainly going to happen. Me, I'm a dreamer though. I'm a dreamer and I'm a terrible gambler. It's a horrible combination. But Olofsky has got the reach, and Olofsky, hey, he can bang, he can hit. I feel like he will, because like I said, Felipe doesn't put everything on every punch. I feel like if he's going to call Olofsky on and get into a firefight with Olofsky, I think Olofsky can plant one on his chin. And look, these are heavyweights. If you want to pretend like it's impossible that these guys can put each other away, you're insane. And I like that it's 4-1 for Andrei Olofsky to get a knockout. Come on, Andrei Olofsky. I am literally just going with Andrei Olofsky to walk in there, get into a firefight, knock Felipe out. One more for the road, Andrei. Come on. 4-1. Bang that on the slip. Then you've got Aspen Lad against Norma Dumont. Now, Aspen Lad is obviously filling in for Holly Holm in this one. Aspen Lad missed weight about 2 weeks ago or so, but she was cutting down to bantamweight, 135. Now 145. So this is looking like a better weight class. But how much did all that weight cutting? And she looked like death on that scale as well. How much is that going to be a factor in this fight? Because on a normal day, I would say that Aspen Lad should beat Norma Dumont with a couple of caveats, right? Dumont's 6-1, and look, she's got no knockouts, but I don't know if she's good enough to beat Aspen Lad, honestly, because one of the things that people have been saying is like, what if Aspen Lad walks onto something? Her kickboxing is not great, do you know what I mean? And she got caught by Durandame because she just walked onto a shot. But look, Dumont, she has got 0 knockouts, right? She doesn't have that kind of power. With respect, it just like the stats indicate that. So I don't know if she's going to have the power to discourage Aspen Lad enough to stop Aspen Lad from grabbing a takedown and just pummeling her into oblivion, because that's what Aspen Lad does. Aspen Lad is a finisher. Don't forget that. She finishes 2/3 of her fights by knockout or TKO. So when I see that the knockout TKO is 3.75, I feel like that's the likely outcome here. Because look, short of Lad walking on something, which could happen, her kickboxing is not good. Her footwork is bizarre for a kickboxer. Dan Hardy pointed out, I had already noticed, but like Aspen Lad, she like walks forward like one foot in front of the other, like she's walking in a bar or just walking in life. She doesn't like kind of step forward like a kickboxer. Maybe we'll see a change in that. It must be something that she's trying to improve. But her grappling is top notch, and you better believe it. And like I said, I just don't feel like Norma Dumont has the kind of power to discourage Aspen Lad. I feel like Aspen Lad will get hit on the way in, no doubt. But I don't feel like Norma Dumont has the power to stop her. And, you know, I might be completely wrong there, but I'm going with history, with the stats, with what we've seen so far. That is what the stats indicate, that she doesn't have the power to stop Aspen Lad from coming in, grabbing a takedown. So I'm taking Aspen Lad here by TKO, knockout, 3.75. That is going on the bet slip. And then, as always, I like to make these extra terrible by just throwing them all together on one terrible, crazy bet. It's like a lottery ticket, but you get to watch people punch each other in the face. And this one, Danny Roberts by knockout, Eric Gonzalez by decision, Andrei Olofsky by knockout, and Aspen Lad by knockout TKO. You've got that at 656.2521. Boom. That is a terrible bet. I love that. I'm hoping at least 1 or 2 of these come off this week. I had a really bad run of form lately. But yeah, there's some interesting fights on there. It'll be interesting to see how the main event goes. And I want to see what Olofsky does. That Danny Roberts as well. Like I said, there's some really intriguing fights here. You know, Lupe Gonzalez. Just so many good fighters, good fights. I'm going to be, and these are on relatively early as well. You've got the Danny Roberts fight at 11 o'clock UK time, and the main event is 2 a.m. UK time. So that's a kind of a picnic for us UK fans. You know what I mean? We're used to being up at 5 o'clock for the main event. So yeah, I'll be watching this one live. Might even do some in-play betting. Who knows? But I'll be reviewing these bets either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week and having a look at what's been going on in the news, probably slating Francis Ngannou for being an absolute dickhead. And yeah, until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.